you should know who J-L Cauvin is. He is the premier Trump impersonator in the world. He's an extremely talented stand-up comic as well, based out of New York. He's a former college basketball player at Williams. And he does a podcast, Making Podcasts Great Again, on the CLNS Media Network. And he has a show coming up this Monday at the City Winery in Boston, Monday, 8 o'clock. Is that right, JL?
That was all correct.
Yeah. So I got most of that right. So multiple things we're going to tell you guys. I'm going to tell you guys now. We'll tell you guys again on the back end. Tickets are available still, I believe, a few, not a ton. So you guys got to get moving for some of these tickets. But tickets are available. So go get them, and I'll put the information on the screen shortly for you guys to go get them. Also, a perk if you give a shit about it. A lot of the guys from the Garden Report are going to be there, and we're going to hang out. And if you're there and you come up and you see us, say, hey, I'm a fan of the Garden Report. We'll get you a drink, and we'll hang out, and we'll watch some good comedy, and we'll watch JL. On top of being
before or after the show, hopefully not during.
Not during. During, you focus on it. But in addition to being one of the funniest guys alive, JL is also a big basketball guy. So before we get into all of the promotion and talk about your stuff, you were listening a little bit on the background conversation here. What's your takeaway? You watch the NBA Finals, you see Giannis win. He's the spotlight guy. But, you know, and I could be wrong. You're a Jazz fan, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
That's a great fit.
Well, I say, you know, I'm biracial. My father was black, my mother is white, and because they fought so much, I gravitated towards Malone and Stockton because they didn't fight; they got along. So
it's pretty funny.
But I love hearing like all the talk about Booker and now Tatum. I always feel like, and I know I'm biased as a Jazz fan, but I always think Donovan Mitchell just doesn't quite get the respect he deserves as sort of a young superstar and like kind of a good leader who sort of says and does the right things for a up and coming team. But that's just my Jazz.
So wait, you think so? It's an obvious. What's funny is like you heard a little bit of our Tatum, all NBA snub. Mitchell was snubbed. Mitchell has every bit of the same case. Booker, right. Trae Young. There's a lot of guys on that who didn't make that cut, who have just as good a case as Tatum or better. Right. And Mitchell's always that guy who a lot of people point to of like, everyone's talking Tatum is the guy. Mitchell's every bit the player. This guy is. What's your take, even if you're going to alienate yourself from a bunch of people in Boston that you want to come see your show?
I think like my nephew actually said to me during these playoffs, he was like, oh, but if the Jazz get the Suns, you have to look out for Booker. And I said, why do the Jazz have to look out for Booker, but the Suns don't have to look out for Mitchell? Like Mitchell has been killing it in the playoffs since his rookie year when he took out George and Westbrook in the first round. He dropped 2 50-point games last year against the Nuggets, but of course it got forgotten because they eventually lost in 7. And he was phenomenal in the playoffs this year. So other than, the top of the top players in the league, I'm very happy with Mitchell for the next decade if we can keep him as our star, as our number one guy.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
and I think he says the right things, like all the things you guys are sort of complaining. Tatum is obviously a great talent, but there are none of those complaints, all the negatives of kind of like, is he approaching it the right way? I know he's a young guy. Mitchell came into the league, with 1 extra year of college, and that's it. Same draft class, and no problems. He's just all good and all positives.
And he has massive chip on your shoulder, like, I'm going to show you how good I am, but it doesn't feel like it's me sort of thing. It's I don't get respect. I'm going to friggin' come out there. I'm going to play better tomorrow. And then you're going to say you had the weird interview with Shaq, but yeah.
That was the weirdest thing I ever seen. I mean, he's a ceiling raiser for sure. They've gotten deep playoff runs there in Utah, but they, like the Celtics, have been a team that's gotten to like that highest level, but hasn't pushed through the finals, especially this last year. I mean, they had the break against Kawhi.
This was painful. This was because Quinn Snyder, who I like as a coach, watching that Game 6, I came home from a gig at like midnight and was watching like the season disintegrate in front of me. And I was like, get Gobert out.
It's
I like
a Rudy
Gobert.
problem, right? Yeah, it's not a Mitchell problem.
It was a situational problem. It was like, okay, you've left. What's the guy's name? Is it Mann? Is that the
Terrence Mann? Yeah,
Terrence Mann. Okay, I get it. You think he's a weak spot, but now he's hit like 7 shots in a row, and he's an NBA player. Guard him. Like now somebody has to guard him. The Rudy sit in the paint. Like that's a limitation of Rudy. But the fact is, you should have just put like Bogdanovich in at center and been like, we have a 15-point lead. If they want to try and outshoot us, the number 1 3-point shooting team in the league, let's ride what we did best this year. Instead, it was like, no, eventually Terrence Mann will miss.
That's a good lesson.
Strategy.
This is why I think the Celtics are going to be much better next year too. You had a $30 million guy, and this is kind of what goes on with Gobert out there in Utah. It's hard to sit down the $30 million man, even when the situation calls for it. Even when you got to adjust your whole play style, and it's probably going to piss someone off or hurt the ego or something like that. Sometimes you just have to do it, and that's what the Celtics went through last year with Kemba. He wasn't getting it done a lot of the time when he was out there. He was banged up. He was being a liability at times on defense, and you just couldn't turn away from him as the starter. I know John was screaming throughout the year, bench him.
So by the way, Kemba Walker's grandmother was my lunch lady in high school. That's a true story.
Wow.
As many smiles.
She was very nice. She was very nice. I had no idea, obviously, because I'm older. He was like an elementary school kid at the time. I was like, oh, by the way, is your grandson any chance going to be an NBA superstar? But but then I saw an article when he won the title with Connecticut. She was in the Daily News. I said, hey, that's my lunch lady. So that's my connection to Celtics hoops, basically.
Well,
So you're from New York? That's what's up.
Yeah.
We talked about Mitchell versus Tatum or Giannis, even for that matter. And again, leadership, grit, blah, 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 all of that stuff. That's great. How much does charisma matter? How much is it to be like, it's impossible not to like Giannis. Mitchell's got that kind of vibe too. Tatum's a little mumbly, sleepy, in his thing. But it's like, it's not just that energy. Like, you need the energy to, like, lift it a little bit. That's something we've always gotten on Tatum. It's like, he's not going to change his personality, be a rah-rah guy. But he does look mopey, at times. And that stuff, I don't know how contagious it is or isn't. I don't want to be the body language cops. But it's hard not to notice it at times in stretches where he just kind of gets into it. And fans and commenters have talked about it as well.
He pouts. I mean, and I'm just as an outside observer, like the games I see with the Celtics, it seems he has a lot of like flailing arm complaints. Like they're not even like fired up. What the F? It's like kind of like I get like sometimes he just kind of looks like I give up. What? Yeah. Why aren't I getting the superstar calls?
Yeah,
and I'm like, as a Malone fan, Malone complained a ton to Karl Malone to the refs. But it was like, he was like an 8-time all first team NBA guy. So, but Tatum seems to, and I'm saying this, maybe this is nothing new to you guys, but it just seems like incredible talent. But like, you're probably in a tough spot with someone like him because maybe he wants to be the leader, maybe in points and salary, but maybe not the leader of the team in terms of I'm going to direct what's going on. But
so that comment not going to be happy.
But then, if you bring in somebody who is leader guy, it will probably rub him the wrong way.
Yeah. See, I think what bothers me about that is like he's almost putting out this message where it's just like, if I just keep getting better, everything's gonna be fine, guys. You know that, right? And it's like, no, that's not how. Like,
yeah, he's from the Kyrie.
You can't just score 50 points a night and expect that everything to be okay and the team's gonna be successful.
Yeah. That Kyrie school of shoot more is essentially what he's gone down here. But that's a great point,
exactly.
though.
Hey, this is comedian J-L Cauvin, best known for his impression of Donald Trump. I'm going to be at City Winery in Boston for one night only, July 26th at 8 p.m. Hope to see you there.
Yeah. By the way, JL, go ahead. Karl Malone, definitely maybe the hardest player to root for in the last 30 years in the NBA. That's a tough guy to have locked on to.
But you got to realize when you're a tall, aspiring power forward and you're just getting in the weight room and you're like, well, that guy's the epitome of power forward.
Here's a box.
And he still looks like he could kick some ass. So, but yes, I know he's got a lot of problems.
Yeah.
lot of negatives on his. If they were to redo his draft report, there'd be some red flags. Yeah. He would not survive a Me Too environment.
Not 2020. I was just going to say that. 2020, no way. 2021.
Stockton and Malone.
Oh, and with Stockton, not to get political, but to find out Stockton is out there doing like anti-vax documentaries. I'm like, they're suiciding my childhood.
Yeah. He went hard.
What? I don't know about this. I gotta check this out.
And Stockton never says anything. Stockton never says anything. This is the time he decided to be vocal.
Right. I'm shocked that this is his moment.
I haven't heard from Stockton in forever. And not only it's not like he threw one random tweet to get himself in headlines. He's literally directing a friggin' documentary. I mean, he's starring in a documentary.
He's one of the Big 12 that Terry does.
Yeah, that's his Space Jam. Anti-vax is his version of Space Jam.
Dude, last time I heard from John Stockton, he was telling stories about being in for the Dream Team 30 for 30, I think it was. Like, it was great. And I'm like, I never had to hear from John Stockton. This is his follow-up? Jeez.
Yeah. So swinging it back, okay, we'll segue it a little bit. Obviously, politics was your bread and butter here because of the Trump impersonation, which is where you kind of not made your bones, but I mean, that's where things blew up for you, right? You've been doing stand-up for a while. How did you stumble onto that specifically? And I got to apologize. Previously, we had Cauvin misspelled here on the tweet. This is JL's handle. Oh. And once again, letting everybody know here, City Winery.
Don't tell him.
City Winery on Monday.
Don't have the H.
City Winery on Monday. JL's doing a show. Get tickets. The Garden Report crew is all going to be there, including Nick, and we're going to hang out. We're going to hang out with you guys before and after the show. We're going to watch some good comedy. But how did the Trump thing kind of start?
It started actually back in 2014. So before he even ran, I was a regular on the Adam Carolla show. Yeah, and I was just doing different impressions for the show, and I sort of stumbled in. They were talking about Trump, and I kind of stumbled into it, and it was like good at the time, but now I look back at it and it was horrible. But it was good, like for a first effort. Right. So I was already working on one for like a year before he announced that he was running, and so I was getting spots on podcasts and things like radio shows, but nothing was blowing up. And I was like, oh, well, if this isn't blowing up, I know this is awesome. So if this isn't blowing up, what the hell am I doing with my comedy career? This is like my cut fastball. If I'm Mariano Rivera, sorry, Red Sox fans, whoever your closer is.
He's the GOAT. He's the GOAT. You got that. That's all right.
But I was like, if this isn't working, then what am I doing? Then everything got shut down, and I was making videos. I was bored in my apartment, made a couple of videos as Trump. And it got seen 15 million times, and it changed. Wow. Like you guys caught it. It literally changed my life. It's like very bizarre to think that you're doing comedy for 16 years. I was on late night television. I did all the bullet points, and then one video went worldwide and just totally changed my comedy career. It's like that doesn't happen in sports. You know what I mean? It's not like this is. I feel like the Neon Bordeaux of comedy. If for any Blue Chips fans out there, I was just a giant dunking in like a barn in Louisiana, and Nick Nolte discovered me suddenly.
Yeah, but that's not so rare in comedy though, right? Some of these guys, they really break later on. Later when they got a couple of decades in, even or close to it. So that's pretty cool.
It's definitely cool, and I'm definitely grateful. But it is one of those things where some of the industry obviously looks for young talent. They're always trying to nurture. It's like sports drafting. It's like the 4-year senior goes in the second round because they go, well, he's probably maxed out his potential. But we'll take the 6'11", 14-year-old who trips over himself, but we think
wingspan.
One day he's going to be
we'll take Yabusele, at number 13. That's fine. Yeah, he'll pan out. He's got a ceiling,
It's a tough bit though because it helps when you're young and your body can handle massive doses of cocaine and and you got that freaking crazy nervous energy to be a total whack job doing comedy. You definitely see it. Look at any SNL guy, when they get to 40 and it's just oh, you got grumpy, huh?
Yeah. Oh, even 6 years ago, I would go drinking after every show. I'm not like a big drinker, but it would just be like you'd have that energy of like, let's keep the party going.
Let's go.
I'm like trying not to look sleepy at the end of shows to fans because I'm like, I got to get to my hotel. Like my end of show tradition is like a pack of soft batch cookies and a milk. Like that's it. It's the saddest thing. I used to be like, give me a 9th gin and tonic, please. And now I'm like, should I get 1 or 2 packs of cookies to watch Sports Center?
Exactly.
Hi guys, Cedric Maxwell here. I want to take a minute to tell you about Marigold Medical. I'm used to keeping my body in great shape, but with arthritis, even the most simple everyday tasks became unbearable. As soon as I called Marigold Medical, I knew I was in good hands. No drugs, no surgery, just an experienced team of caring professionals that wanted to get me back to doing the things I love. Make the call to Marigold Medical and get back to pain-free life.